It's Alabama week, and LSU has a big problem at left tackle. So what do? We'll talk about it. Locked on LSU, here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Welcome, as always, to our friends watching us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every Monday through Friday. So it is Alabama week. Tigers open as a 10.5-point underdog on the road against the 7-1 and 4th-ranked Crimson Tide. But LSU is going to have one giant, massive question, both physically and literally, when they take to the field in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday against the Crimson Tide, and that's what's going to happen at left tackle. I want to remind you that a few weeks back when LSU played in Nashville against Vanderbilt, Tyree Adams, your starting left tackle, went down due to injury in that game and was replaced by DJ Chester. He did not return. We later learned that Adams had a high ankle sprain for which he had the tightrope procedure. Remember, that's the procedure that Tua had back in 2019. It's supposed to help accelerate the healing from a high ankle sprain. But as Brian Kelly said at the time, they might have Adams back before the end of the season, but this could be something that carries all the way through November through the end of the season. That's typically 4 to 6 week type injury to come back from with that tightrope procedure. So if you looked at Vanderbilt, had the surgery before Texas A&M, you'd think A&M, the open date, of course, Alabama, Arkansas, then somewhere Western Kentucky, Oklahoma might be a target for Adams to return if he did. So it was Carius Curne who replaced Tyree Adams in the game against Texas A&M. But late in that game, Carius Curne went down with injury. So I asked Frank Wilson for an update on the left tackle situation. Here it is.
Yeah, so Tyree Adams is out. Carius Curne is questionable. He was here yesterday for the scouting report in the walkthrough of Alabama. He participated in it. We're hopeful. We're taking it day by day. But right now, his status will be questionable.
So Carius Curne questionable. And then you come to this sort of evolution of the conversation to, okay, well, if Carius Curne can't go, then what happens next? So Curne, remember, the 5-star from Arkansas, who's been one of your better, more consistent linemen this year. He did play the entire game against Ole Miss at right tackle. Remember, that's when Weston Davis was concussed before the game. So prior to A&M, Curne had played 3 games. Louisiana Tech, Southeastern Louisiana, Ole Miss, all at right tackle. 1 snap against Louisiana Tech, 26 snaps against Southeastern, and then played the entire game, all 62 snaps at right tackle against Ole Miss. And his pass blocking grade in that game against Ole Miss was an 80.3. He was outstanding. Now, he played left tackle against Texas A&M and played 54 snaps before he went down with injury. And it wasn't quite as good. His pass blocking grade was a 19.4. His run blocking grade was a 52.9. His overall offensive grade was a 41.5. Again, it's not ideal. Tyree Adams, you're starting left tackle. You were starting a true freshman in Carius Curne there. For the first time against A&M, which leads the country, by the way, in sacks as of right now. So an unenviable spot, but those are your top 2 guys at left tackle. And so I asked the follow-up, if Curne is unavailable this week on the road against Alabama, what do you do at left tackle?
We're working on it. We're working on exactly how that would look, whether that would be DJ Chester, whether that would be flopping Weston over. We have a couple of scenarios that we're looking at right now. Probably the most immediate thing would be is to put DJ Chester in at left tackle. And do the things we need to do to allow him to play his very best.
Remember also, as we talk about Chester, and it actually is really fun, just as a random aside, to start talking about football again. And this is an LSU team that obviously has its flaws, and we know that. We've talked about them all. You don't fix all your flaws after 8 games. You in a way are what you are, but you see if maybe with a new direction you could tweak some things. The Chester as an option at left tackle was initially what Brian Kelly was going to go with against Texas A&M. Remember, Chester replaced Tyree Adams at Vanderbilt. And on the Monday of the A&M week, Brian Kelly said it would be Chester starting left tackle. As that week went along, they made the decision to go with Carius Curne instead. Now, if Curne's not an option, you would have Chester. If you want to look at maybe the positive for DJ Chester is that this wouldn't be his first go-round out there at left tackle. He played the 4 snaps at left tackle against Clemson when Tyree Adams went down with injury. He played center against Tech when Braylon Moore went down, and then center against Southeastern when the subs went in. But then 38 snaps at left tackle against Vanderbilt, and then 13 snaps at left tackle against Texas A&M when Curne went out. So 3 of his 5 outings this year have been at left tackle. As I tallied up, 38, 42, 52, 55 snaps at left tackle this year. 3 games, 55 snaps. It's not a ton, but again, you're talking about a guy that did start 13 games a year ago and has started on the road in the SEC. So at least you have a veteran option there in DJ Chester, albeit a guy that's not a very good option at tackle. Now, in the 13 snaps, I'm looking at the PFF grades here. In the 13 snaps that he played at left tackle against Texas A&M, his overall grade was a 27. Run blocking grade was a 50.9. His pass blocking grade was a 0. So obviously that's not really ideal, but he has his pass blocking grade at center against Tech and Southeastern were both over an 82. So Chester is a veteran player, an experienced player. He's just not a tackle, as I've talked about plenty. He is an interior player. I believe he's a guard. But I do want to tell you why I think if it is DJ Chester, as I think it will be, why that might actually work out. Now, the other things that Frank mentioned there were the possibility of playing Weston Davis and flipping Weston Davis from right tackle to left tackle. That, to me, would feel like an extreme measure that you would only do in an absolute dire spot. On the season, Weston Davis, in his 7 games played, his PFF grade is a 38. By far the lowest graded of your offensive linemen. I can't see that as a viable option. That would seem like that would be the emergency option. If something happened to Chester, you maybe flip him. The only other option would be Ori Williams. Ori Williams has played in just 1 game this year. It was against Southeastern. He did play at left tackle. Again, you were beating Southeastern so bad. That's when you put your backups in the second half. And he played 26 snaps at left tackle and graded out okay. A 54 overall. His run blocking grade was at 71, and his pass blocking grade was at 62. So Ori Williams would be another option there at left tackle if you needed it, but that seems like that would be a down-the-line option. Now, I do think there is at least a slight reason for optimism, and I'll explain why as we continue. Locked on LSU, your team every day. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Pull up Game Time, just a couple of taps, you'll see amazing deals. Talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. And I love the zone deals too. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And we're brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who scores next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So it very likely looks like DJ Chester will get the start at left tackle against Alabama, provided Carius Curne is unable to go. And I want to give you a slight reason for optimism. Now, a week ago when Frank Wilson met with reporters for the first time after being named the interim head coach, he said very plainly, we are going to run the football. LSU there are 136 teams that play in the FBS. LSU is 124th in rushing attempts. Understand, there are only 12 teams in the country that have run the ball less than. I'm not talking about rushing yardage. I'm not talking about efficiency. I'm talking about attempts. Only 12 teams in the country have attempted to run the ball less than LSU. So it goes back to what we talked about. It's not necessarily whether or not you can run the football. It's, are you even trying to run the football? Frank Wilson's the running backs coach, who's now your interim head coach. Alex Atkins is now your play caller, and he is by trade an offensive lineman. He's your tight ends coach on the staff, but he is by trade an offensive lineman. LSU is going to run the football against Alabama. And you say, okay, well, that's fine. You try. Can you actually do it? Well, last week against Texas A&M, or 2 weeks ago, Harlem Berry was averaging 7 yards a carry in the first half. He had one rushing attempt in the entire second half. Carried the ball for 3 yards on the first play of the third quarter, never carried it again. Alabama, overall, statistically is a pretty good defense. They're 24th in the country in total defense. They're 20th in the country in scoring defense. But when you look at how Alabama is on the line of scrimmage, this is where they're vulnerable. Alabama is 72nd in the country in rush defense. Think about that. For all the ways that Nick Saban had built that team for nearly 2 decades, it was being great on the line of scrimmage. They were consistently top 10 in the country in rush defense, if not one. Alabama's allowing 149 rush yards per game on average. Also, when you look at their ability to pressure the quarterback, they're not very good. They're 83rd in sacks. They 15 sacks total on the season, averaging about 1.8 sacks per game, so less than 2 sacks per game on average. The bottom line is Alabama's strength has been on the back end. They're 12th in the country in passing yards allowed. So when you think about Alabama defensively, they're susceptible against the run, and they're not great at rushing the passer. So my contention with DJ Chester all along has been he is a guard. Well, man, now he's going to play tackle. What do you okay, let me make my point. DJ Chester last year played center. Hand on the football, making checks, calls, all that sort of stuff. It slows down your processing. At tackle, you have to be athletic enough to kick, slide, get out in space, and get in front of really athletic edge rushers. I don't think that's DJ Chester's strength. Okay. What DJ Chester is, however, is a guy that's 6'7", 320 pounds. If you tell DJ Chester, put your hand in the dirt and just get into the pads of the guy in front of you and move bodies, I think DJ Chester is really good at doing that. He is a guard. You put this giant human in a phone book and say, move the man in front of you. I think he can do that. Well, against this Alabama team, if you want to put him at left tackle and you're going to be a more run-heavy offense and say, put your hand in the dirt and move the man in front of you, I think he could be quite efficient at doing that on the road against Alabama this weekend. Now, will it work? Will Alabama stack the box to try to limit the run, to make Nussmeier beat him throwing the pass, knowing that that's Alabama's strength and LSU's weakness this year? That's the cat and mouse game they'll play throughout the game Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. But I would be way more concerned, for example, losing my starting left tackle like you did last week again, or in the last game against Texas A&M, against the team that's literally leading the country right now in sacks. I mean, Texas A&M entered that game top 10 in both sacks and TFLs, and they finished with 7 sacks and 11 TFLs because your tackles weren't very good. Weston Davis has really struggled all year, and you were without Tyree Adams, Carius Curne starting for the first time, and then Curne got hurt and Chester had to go in. That was an awful matchup because you were playing a team with a really good pass rushing defensive front. Well, that's not the case this week. You're facing a team that it is their weakness going against your perceived weakness certainly not a perceived weakness. Pass protection is definitely a weakness for LSU. But what about your ability to run block against this front? That's going to be interesting. Listen, the game plan for LSU against Alabama is pretty obvious. They're going to go try to run the football. They're going to run the football, try to shorten the game, make it a 4-quarter contest, see if you can win the turnover battle, find a way to steal a possession somewhere, and see if you can win a close game on the road. Like, it's pretty obvious that's going to be the plan. I don't know if it can work. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll tell you, if you told me that LSU had to go to Tuscaloosa against one of the best pass rushes in college football and hope that this offensive line had to hold up, I would not feel very optimistic about that. This at least has a realistic chance of working. A big question will be on the other side if the LSU defense, which has really faltered of late, can hold up against a very good and efficient Alabama offense where Ty Simpson and that Alabama passing attack has been very good. Simpson's thrown 1 interception all year. We'll talk about this more as we move throughout the week, but for now, big question to watch. Who is going to play left tackle for LSU as they go on the road to Tuscaloosa this week to take on the Crimson Tide? We'll follow that and all of the angles of this game. Of course, LSU's coaching search as we move throughout this week right here on Locked on LSU. Hey, thanks so much for making this your first listen. Do me a favor, please, if you're listening on podcast, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review if you're on YouTube. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.